Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. It seems that corruption exists at all levels within the SNP, from the very top to the very bottom. And we have an example here of an SNP councillor in Inverclyde by the name of Innes Nelson. He is on the planning committee. He decided that he would block the planning of a £250 million development. And the reason? Well, it was right next to his home and he didn't like the view to be spoilt. It seems he abused his position, and so because of it, the suspension has taken place. It doesn't surprise anyone. It is all to do with the fact that they really don't like the idea of other people having control over things that they want to have control of. This big development would have been, done, developed, built and run without any sort of input or control by the SNP. Number one. And number two, he's like, no, I like the space, I like the open view, and I don't want poor people moving next to my house. Well, now he's got to learn. Let's take a look at this to see why this man has been suspended and what the ramifications are for the local community. Here goes. So, SNP councillor suspended after blocking £250 million housing development next to his own home. Inverclyde councillor Innes Nelson has been suspended for just a month, unfortunately, by the Standards Commission, but the billionaire brothers, the Easdales, wanted to resign after he was involved in a decision to block a planning application for homes beside his farmhouse. And this was in the old IBM site, and it's a big old site, and they bought this with the plan or the idea to develop it, turn it into new housing estate, basically. Creating houses, that thing that Scotland is desperately needing. But for some, whatever reason, they don't want to build because, it might spoil his view, might make his own house a bit too close to other people. Up his own backside somewhat, methinks. An SNP councillor has been suspended for a month after opposing plans for a £250 million housing scheme, which was set to be built beside his own home. Innes Nelson will not be allowed to take part in meetings by Inverclyde Council for the next month, after being reprimanded by the Standards Commission. Now, how come the Standards Commission can give him a month's ban, but can't possibly look at the likes of Humza Yousaf or any of them at Holyrood? Seems very odd, doesn't it? It's only the lower levels. Them at the top can get away with much worse. The Nat politician is facing calls to resign by the angered billionaire Easdale brothers, who were the applicants behind the housing project. They warned that they may take legal action against Mr. Nelson for losses they accrued due to the planning decision, which they won on appeal. And they, within their right, I'm afraid, to take legal action. They have got damages. Any expense and extra costs and things like that is a legal damage, and they have the right to get that repaid. And so, unfortunately, the people of Scotland will be forced to repay them for the decisions made by one up his own arse councillor who thought he was above the law and was abusing the position in which he found himself. Mr. Nelson should have abstained from discussion about the proposals to build the 450 houses on the derelict site of the former IBM plant in Greenock, with this Spango Valley site being close to his Criswell farm. He failed to declare an interest in the matter and backed a restriction on the number of homes that could be built by the Easdales. Now, it's right that he has been suspended. I think it should have been permanently excluded. He should have been fired and, just disbarred from this. He should also have obviously declared a direct interest at that point as well, saying, I've got, this here, it's backing onto my own property. I'm directly affected by it. Now, he could have said, my personal view is I don't want it there, but I'm not going to take part in the vote. That would have been fine. No problem with that. Move on. But he chose not to do that. He chose to break the rules. Ethics bosses did say there was no evidence that the councillor had not acted in good faith, but said that he should have declared an interest and left the summit, of course. Ashley Dunn, Standards Commissioner and member for the chair of the hearing panel, said the panel found that Councillor Nelson failed to declare an interest in the planning application and instead took part in the discussion and decision making, despite the site that was subject to the planning application being located near his property. And of course it is that sort of location that should have disbarred him. It's someone looking out not for the interests of their own constituents or for the people of the area, but looking out for his own interest. Very single-minded bias for his own personal gain. The panel said his record in local government was previously unblemished. Don't care. Doesn't matter. There's many people in prison for the first crime. But due to him knowing that his farmhouse is the closest property to the site, he should have realised that this would have been seen as being so significant that it would likely affect his decision making. The Easdales have called on Mr Nelson to resign his role as they look to recoup some of the money they spent on appealing the original decision. Now, as far as I can tell, you've got several grounds, because obviously you've got the cost of the appeal, you've got the extended costs with all the work done by running the company and not, from the investment until the investment starts. That investment should have started earlier. That would have affected cash flow. There is that can be calculated. All the cost of keeping the staff going over and beyond what that should have been. There's opportunity costs. There's all sorts of costs that can go on. This could end up costing many millions of pounds to the taxpayer, and all because Nelson basically didn't want it near his house. Anyway, originally an application was made for 450 houses as part of a mixed-use development, but permission was only given for 270, which was seen as unviable and repealed following an appeal. And of course now they've got the 450, and that's 450 houses that are desperately needed. They complained that the Ethical Standards Commissioner, leading to the hearing on Wednesday, the hearing on Wednesday, misspell there, Sandy Easdale said Councillor Nelson has been found guilty of breaching the code of conduct and must now resign as a councillor. It is beyond contempt that he put his own interests above those of the constituents regarding a planning application that sought to regenerate a landmark site in Inverclyde. Absolutely, and it's a dead site. Bring it back in, bring it into use, use it, create it, turn it into something useful instead of just leaving it there to rack and ruin. There we go. That's what happens. And that's what happens when you get SNP councillors exercising the rules as they see fit rather than what should be unfair and unbiased decision making. I'll come up. There we go. Innes Nelson must resign, I feel. He's gone beyond the pale on this one. And the claim that he's got a previously unblemished record is immaterial. Doesn't matter what he's done or hasn't done in the past. The fact is what he's done this time is a breach. It's a breach of trust. And it's acting purely in his own self-interest. And that alone should force his hand. He should go. Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video. And I will speak to you later. Bye.